Hey everyone, it's Dr. Tiffany from TMD Collective. I'm welcoming you to a very special edition of Jaw Talk. I'm thrilled to reintroduce a favorite episode that continues to inspire me. Today, we're going to be revisiting the episode I had with Lindsey Naglieri, who is my good friend and entrepreneur here in Washington State. She owns three Pilates studios, the Studio Modern Pilates, and it's one of my favorite places to go for my Pilates workouts. Lindsay's also just so inspiring to me as a fellow female entrepreneur, mom, small business owner in this area. And we talked in this episode about setting goals for 2024 and manifesting some of our dreams. And so I have some really exciting news coming up here for the rest of the year. And so I thought it'd be fun to revisit this episode again with Lindsay, just in light of some of these new dreams that we're going to be putting out there in the universe, and also just to kind of talk about some of the incredible things that we can manifest and get done when we dare to dream big. So let's dive into this conversation with Lindsay and see where it takes us. Hey everybody, this is Dr. Tiffany of TMD Collective, and this is a special edition of Jaw Talk. This episode is going out Happy New Year on January 1, 2024, and I wanted to bring my good friend Lindsey Naglieri on the show. She is the founder of the Studio Modern Pilates and such an amazing female entrepreneur, such an inspiration to me, as well as a friend and Pilates guru. And so thank you for being on the show today. A little bit different, but thank you for coming on Jaw Talk.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to have a combo with you.
I know. Well, it was either that or me like awkwardly talking to the camera with like a solo episode. And I was like, no, that can't happen. I need someone to
I'll
talk to.
I'll be your mirror. We can just have like our normal conversation.
Totally, totally. So, most of my listeners are like dentists and like physical therapists and kind of like healthcare workers, but I am
Yeah.
just such an advocate, as you know, of Pilates and the benefits of that. I do it with you in your studio, all of your beautiful spaces. And a lot of my TMJ patients, I tell them once they're kind of done with my treatment, you have to go to Pilates. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about how did you like kind of find Pilates?
Let's see. So going back to, I think it was like 2009 or something, back when I was living in California, and I was trying out all the different studios, all the different types of fitness, and trying to find the thing that stuck. Like what was something that was maybe, I don't know, like I would look forward to it. And so Pilates was that thing for me. Once I finally found it, like a light bulb went off and I was like, oh, I can enjoy exercise. Like this is opening my mind. And it felt so good for my mind. So ever since then, I just kind of bounced around, went to as many studios as I could, tried lots of different methods and different types of equipment. I did classes, I did privates, I did the online thing, tried mat Pilates. That was not my favorite. And yeah, it became my passion and my hobby. And then I thought maybe it'd be cool if I could make this thing I enjoy, I don't know, maybe a career. So eventually I got my certifications that happened once had moved to Washington, and the rest is just history, basically.
I know when you first moved to Tacoma, everyone kept telling me, like, you have to meet this girl, you have to meet her. Like, we have a mutual friend, Elizabeth Blake. And then, you were teaching at a studio that I was already going to. And I remember, I was like, oh, yeah, like I'm a Pilates pro, like, no
You
problem.
are.
And my legs were shaking.
Yeah,
So,
I I remember the moment that we met. I could go there right now in my mind. But we were in that little studio, and I I don't remember how long I had been teaching there at that point, but I knew that I was doing things a little differently than the classical way and that the way that the other instructors there were doing things, but they were so welcoming and encouraging and like, yeah, keep going with that like athletic approach. And some of the clients there were not enjoying what I was doing, but I remember that you did. And then we chatted afterwards, and you were talking about how you had gone to some studios that were similar, had a similar type of vibe in Portland, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
In
we
Malibu
clicked.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I remember too, because like your daughter was, I think, about 2 at the time. And I really related to you because when we moved to Tacoma, my kiddo was 2, and it was like such a chilly community. I mean, they talk about like the Seattle freeze. I felt like
Yes.
that was like such a thing. It was hard to like
Yeah.
meet other people that were kind of like similar, or, as like new moms. So it was like I felt you.
Yeah. I appreciated that because I think it was difficult to meet people for sure. And then after COVID, even harder with my second to meet people. I feel like I'm still trying to make friends around here.
Well, last night when I was thinking about recording this with you, I was remembering how during COVID, we were trying to all be so careful and try to work out at home. And you were pregnant at the time. And I remember you dropped off like a little kit with like a slider, and,
Oh my
you
God.
did some like YouTube videos, and it was so comforting to me to like hear your voice, like counting. I mean, like it
Oh,
makes me like emotional right now just because like I had so much anxiety, and, it was like not being able to really see people or like work out in the same way. And just like the familiarity of like kind of with your video, it was just like, this is the best ever. And then like, I remember, a friend and I were able to come back with masks, and we're like, yes, like we'll do whatever it takes just to like get back in the studio.
you were so support. I mean, you've always been supportive from the
Aw,
beginning, but I remember too during COVID, you bought some clothes or something, and I remember you said it smells like the studio.
it
So
does.
any little bits of normalcy that we could find in that time were, yeah, we clung
So
on to those.
comforting.
Yeah, that feels like a long time ago, but
No, but it wasn't
yeah.
that long
But it
ago.
wasn't that long ago, but look at us.
Well,
Look
and
at what
like,
we're doing now.
I know, and starting a business from scratch in the middle of all that, like, I wish people would be more real about how hard that is. Can you
I
speak to that?
agree. Oh man, you're giving me goosebumps. I feel like this is my opportunity. I I constantly am in my head about this because I feel part of my purpose in life is to hopefully inspire others, not just in moving their bodies, but in pivoting in life and chasing their dreams. And I'm really passionate about mindset too. So I'm constantly thinking I would like to share on Instagram about what's going on, but I want to also be authentic. And it is so hard. So I don't ever want to sound ungrateful or complaining, but every day it's a roller coaster, as life is, but it's not really talked about as much as I feel like. I wonder if I would have known how difficult it is to run a business, to own a business, to be the service provider at that business. If I would have known that, I wonder if that would have changed anything for me. Probably not, because I love Pilates and I like to be my own boss. But I think there needs to be a balance between keeping it real, but also motivating people and keeping it positive. We can't keep it too positive because it's not easy. It's really not.
Well, and what was your inspiration? I feel like each of the 3 studios, which, the UP one just opened, and I think I've shared this with you before. I love that each studio kind of has its own magic. How did you kind of like envision each one of those, like in your head? Did you have like a vision board, or like did the
Yeah.
space kind of like lend itself to the magic?
That's such a good question. I feel like they really became their own the magic that they have, and I'm so glad that you say that, but the magic that you feel, really, I don't feel like I was the creator of that. I feel like I maybe helped hone it a little bit, but when I first decided I would like to be a studio owner, what do I picture in a studio that I would want to go to? I did have a list of certain things. I wanted it to have, white walls, be bright, big ceilings, have space for you to move. And I also wanted some sort of kind of an industrial feel, but still could be cozy and felt clean. And so that helped guide me to the first studio that was in Tacoma in that back space in the same building. And then I always had my eye on where we are now in Tacoma. And so I guess I just once I owned a business, and you learn a lot, kind of like when you buy a house and you have I want this many bedrooms, I want this many bathrooms, whatever. But then once you move into the house, you're realizing, oh, I really would prefer, to have a one-story house. Some things you don't know until you've lived in a space and operated from it. So my list kind of kept going with some things that were just more like functional needs. And then I sort of just let the universe guide me to spaces. And I always had my eye on that one in Tacoma that has the big, beautiful window and the view. So certain things I wanted to highlight or not take away from. This space was just a blank canvas. And so this one, I had Amy Meisgeier, our designer, help me steer the way. She also helped in Gig Harbor a lot too. But it kind of was like organic. It was kind of an organic thing.
I love it. I love it. Well, like I said, they're all just like so unique and beautiful, but you're that common thing that binds everything together. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit for like how like creative and wonderful and magical of a person you are.
I really
you
don't.
draw people to you. You link people together and you help them like
Thank you.
kind of be their best self too, and really feel strong and empowered no matter what.
Thank you for saying that. You're going to make me emotional. I had a business coach for a little bit there, and something that he said was, be the lighthouse, not the tugboat. And I think about that a lot in how I want to inspire others and how I feel I am best inspired by those ahead of me. Is you don't really want to be told, you should do this, you should do that, because we all feel like we're not doing enough as it is. So I think it's so much more inspiring and actually finding results when they make the choice on their own because they see how things are working for someone else and they aspire to be that. So I just try to be my best self. And I know certain things that help me be my best self do affect the energy I'm giving off. And I feel like you can tell when you're around someone that has been taking care of themselves and someone that maybe has been neglecting themselves. And I feel like I'm the latter lately. So I'm really trying. It's not easy for me to be like staying active every day or to stay positive every day. But I do know that the more people I interact with, the more important it is that I do take care of those things, because it's a ripple effect. I just picture that, So I do the best I can. I'm so glad that you say that, though. Thank you. You're so complimentary. Is it my turn? Should I give you some compliments?
Oh, sure.
Wow. I actually do wonder, how do you stay so positive? I feel like I have never seen you, maybe once have I ever seen you not like smiling. And just like, it's not just a smile of the teeth. It's also a smile of the eyes. It's the light behind the eyes. So it's a real smile. So what's your secret?
I feel like I've cried in Pilates before.
It's a release. Crying's not bad. I just came from a massage and I was crying. So we got to let it out. I think Pilates is the best place for that.
Totally.
Because then if you have little droplets on the machine, you could just say they're sweat. No one knows they're tears. Maybe you're just working hard.
Well, and I mean, we always joke, I call it my like resting Pilates face, is when I do a workout with you, I have to dig deep. And sometimes you'll be like asking me questions like, what happened to this? And what was that? And I'm just like,
you're like, not now. I know. I'm so used to that face that it doesn't even faze me.
I'm very serious about my workout.
Well, it's important. It's a very important time.
What are the other non-negotiables for you in your day that you do to keep that inner peace?
I'm thinking a lot about that lately because I have really been swept up with the holidays and just the end of the year rush, and also the this studio opening in October. Just when a new business opens, I feel like there's the rush to open it, and this was a long process to get it open. But when the doors open, it's not vacation time. It's like go time, and you have to work even harder. So I feel like I've really been swept up, and I'm looking forward to next year and starting fresh. I know some people have feelings about New Year's resolutions and maybe they're not cool anymore, but I love a fresh start. And I also like the idea of doing my best to get to the end of this year. So some of my non-negotiables are going to be moving my body. And I think the reason that New Year's resolutions have such a bad rap is because people think they are a bar that you are either at, above, or below. But I don't believe in that. I like to keep it kind of general, so then I can tell myself I've met my quota, even if I haven't, worked out for 2 hours or something crazy. So moving my body daily is a requirement. That could be walking my dog. That could be playing on the playground with my kids. That could be getting my own Pilates session in, or that could be having 20 minutes to do Pilates, and it also works for, getting some social media content. So anything counts, but I must do that every day. And then meditating is something that I would like to get back to. I think of it just like exercise for our brains. I am such a big believer in moving our bodies. The fact that I have neglected working my brain and letting her be quiet and still and process things I'm not proud of that. So that's a big one for me through the end of the year and into next, is meditating. And same with movement. That could be, maybe it's a 1 minute meditation. Maybe I don't know, maybe I take on transcendental meditation. I'm really curious about that. But I need to be focusing on the physical, the brain, the mental. And I also think something that has worked well for me in the past that I think I'm going to get back to is the days I feel most successful are the ones where I touch each of the buckets that are important to me. Mm-hmm. So I do something for my family. That could be making dinner. That could be doing the school drop-offs. That could be story time. But if I put something in that bucket, that's a box I've checked. And then something for my business that pushes us forward. Maybe that's finally getting around to an email that I need to send out, or doing something at one of the studios. The more studios you have, the more things break. So I feel like there's always something to be fixed. Oh, no. But if I could get to the family bucket, get to the work bucket, and then get to my bucket, and maybe put a little extra in my bucket, I think that would be. Oh, and also there should be a fun bucket. There's a fun bucket where maybe there's something
bucket, right? Maybe a social/friend bucket, right?
Yes. There needs to be one that is not any sort of multitasking, and it's nothing besides just fun. I actually am listening to this book called Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. Have you heard of it?
I love Adam Grant. I listened to Think Again, maybe a year or two ago, but I haven't listened to this one. But yeah, he's great.
Yes, I find him so smart and so inspiring. And I just started listening to this, and I was listening to it this morning, and he's talking about how to avoid burnout, you must introduce the idea of play. And a lot of the time we think we don't have time to play, but there's a way that you can bring the concept of play to your to-do list. So I'm trying to kind of think in that way.
Well, to me, Pilates can be kind of a type of that too. You get together with someone who's very creative, or you're thinking of what's a new routine. And, you're so good at that, where it's never the same routine, never boring. You're always, creating all of those, to me, when I get together with you, or Bonnie, or, some other instructors that are very creative, to me, that feels like a type of play. I don't know.
It is. It is. It really is. I mean, I think a Pilates studio is just a playground for adults. It's a bunch of jungle gyms back there, basically.
Totally.
I actually, with just feeling so busy lately, I haven't really spent time coming up with new playlists or new routines. Lately, I've just been cycling through ones I already have because they're ready, and then I can spend more time on these other things. But the other day, because I have one of these X-formers at my house, and I was like, this is really what I want to spend my time doing. So even though I probably should be getting in bed, I enjoy the creative aspect of coming up with a routine and trying it on my own body and seeing how it feels. And it it was maybe not the best use of my time, like if you look at my list, but it really filled me up. And then I taught that routine the next day, and it was just so fun. And I feel like something like that is like affecting those vibrations again. So
Totally.
when you do something for yourself, it it ends up being for other people too, you know?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. So,
what would you say to someone who's never done Pilates before and they're maybe like intimidated or they're like, where should I start? Should I start with flow? Like, should I start with high
yeah,
intensity?
this is a commonly asked question. I think that it's super intimidating. Not only does the equipment look very overwhelming, confusing, but also coming to a new place, perhaps you don't feel comfortable wearing, spandex. There are a lot of things that would dissuade someone, especially if they've maybe not been active for a while. But what I tell people is that you can start with private sessions. Some people choose that route just to get comfortable and feel like they kind of get a head start before they come to a class. And I think that is a really good way to begin because you'll have that one-on-one time with an instructor where you can really explain what you've been working with physically or mentally. Because I think knowing the challenges that people face mentally is really important for any new practice. I think that one-on-one time is really helpful, and it could be one session. Some people do 3 or 5 and then they feel like joining classes. Some people just prefer that one-on-one coaching. For a class though, we have different styles of classes. So there's something for however you're feeling on that day or maybe in that season of life. And so the form is the best place to start, I would say, because that is where we're really going to start laying the Pilates principles. You'll start getting familiar with the equipment and with the terminology, and you're not asked to do anything maybe too complicated, but you start to understand the concepts and you definitely feel it the next day or two. So you're starting to, it's all sinking in.
Yes. And I can attest to feeling it like the next day and the next day,
Yeah, I think
even if you're
sometimes
seasoned.
I think, people who understand Pilates or are movement professionals, we understand that you don't need to be dripping in sweat to have an effective workout. But for those who maybe don't have fitness as their profession or don't have a lot of experience in it, we have lived through some very toxic times in fitness where we were taught you better just murder your body. Otherwise, why are you even here? And I am so glad that we are taking leaps and bounds away from that because, yeah, you could be practicing Pilates for 20 years, take a form class, and really feel the benefits. And some days, it's not even a muscle soreness is the benefit. It's, oh, I'm actually thinking more about my posture the next day. I'm just more aware of how I'm holding myself. That's a benefit. It doesn't have to be a physical, you know, a perked bicep or something. It could be
Right.
something totally different. There's so many benefits.
And even like the breathing, like I'm always like telling my patients, when you have like chronic pain, your sympathetic nervous system is always like in fight or flight. You're, like having the
Yeah.
bear chase after you, you start to like hold your breath and you don't even realize that you're doing that or you're breathing shallowly. And
Yeah.
so I think Pilates is amazing for teaching people how to breathe properly and like you said, how to use their muscles properly that are more like postural muscles.
Yeah. Yeah. The breath thing is so important. And I feel like sometimes that could be cued more. I think we can never remind people enough to breathe. They should be breathing constantly. But when they are on the reformer or in a movement where they're thinking, what are my shoulders, my hips? Like they're thinking about all these physical things. They're holding their breath and they're forgetting to breathe. That might be the last thing they're thinking about. So I want to try to bring that up to the first thing we have people think about. With some of my Pilates private clients, even someone this morning, we just start purely just breathing before we even start anything else. And whether you're doing that in a Pilates studio or just as soon as you get out of bed and put your feet on the floor, taking a moment to breathe, that is something that could be a drop in our bucket that takes, 90 seconds or less.
Right. And unclench your jaw, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I need that one.
That's always a good cue because I feel like people do it, and you can kind of see their muscle like rippling as they're like, you're like, wait a minute, just take a minute to undo that.
Undo that. Exactly. I think sometimes learning to isolate certain parts of your body can be a challenge, but you start to get it when it's something like an arm, a leg, a hip. But learning to isolate, like you're concentrating. So maybe you're really like clenching. Like how do we focus without clenching? How can we, separate those?
Absolutely. So you mentioned Adam Grant. What are some other like podcasts, like a couple other podcasts that you're like loving and listening to?
Yes. Okay. I feel like I have a very long list. I do have some podcasts that are just purely fun podcasts when I need to check out. And so I love like a pop culture podcast for that. There is it called Culturistas? I'm having a brain malfunction. Let's see.
And I know you love
Las
Ed
Culturistas.
You love
Yeah.
Ed.
Do you listen to him?
I have. Yeah. I've heard him a couple times.
I don't know what it is about him because I don't really feel like I'm his demographic, but there is inside of
I know
me.
he's my age. He's like 50, 51.
Well, I don't know. I feel like maybe he would skew more like masculine, maybe like the people that would be drawn to listen to him, or maybe people who are more conservative. And I'm neither of those things, but I love his concept of one more. I actually have his book that I started and am working through as well. But his concept of just one more is really interesting to me because, as you know, as a business owner, there are days where you're maybe second guessing, why am I even doing this? Should I stop? And I mean, I had this moment literally last night. I was crying to my husband and I'm like, what am I? And look at us now. Here we are, new day. We're smiling.
Yeah.
And I think about that, the concept of just one more, that's all it could take. Just one more day that you get those clients that become lifetime clients, or one more day that you work with someone and they give you a piece of feedback that your work with them has made their life better. So the other podcasts that I follow that are like business related are these this couple, the Hormozis. And I was actually listening to Layla Hormozi's podcast this week too. I love their podcast because they're quick. They're like 15 minutes sometimes or less, which is nice, for a commute to a studio. But Layla was talking about how they're multimillionaires now. So super cool. Would love to be there myself one day. And they hustled. People think, and this goes back to that whole people don't understand how hard it is. We see the end effect on Instagram. We see the private jet. We see, taking the vacation to Turks and Caicos, but we don't see, because a lot of these people were hustling while Instagram was still becoming a thing. So we couldn't follow their journey. So it actually is kind of a cool time to be an entrepreneur and to show that real side of it and to show that there is a hustle, because I bet in 5 years from now, we should do this again and we should see where we're at, because no one who is a multimillionaire got there overnight unless it was money from their family or they won the lottery. And I just think that, we have to put in the time. And I have to remind myself, COVID really, it was a long period of time that almost didn't count, unfortunately.
It was like a black hole.
Yeah. And the timing for me was okay because I was pregnant. And so my hustle mode was at a lower level. but I'm only, what, 2019 is when I opened. So we're coming up on 5 years, and I feel like that's still baby. That's still babies. So I'm going to have the nights where I forget the question. I'm just like blabbing on about what's
Oh,
on
it's
my mind.
okay.
But
I feel like, Greg's like, you have one more year, babe. And if you are not making any money, like this all needs to get shut down.
it is, I mean, there is something to, we can't just like keep going down into the hole, because I mean, having a business is expensive, and we don't want to get ourselves in too deep. We have to have some of those wins, but it's never going to be like all of a sudden we're out of the hole. We climb up a little bit, we get knocked down a little bit. We climb up a little more, we get knocked down a little more. So eventually we get there. I think having a deadline is good, but I don't know. I think at the year point, if you ever decide that you're done, I think it can't be a snap decision. Like, you have to really like take a look at it and be like, wait a second. You got to look at numbers before. And I think those moments where we're like, why are we doing this? I should just stop. We're not looking at numbers, or maybe we're looking at numbers, but we're not looking at the whole picture of all the numbers. So I think that's what I like. Ed Milet, that's what we were talking about. Just, he's like, keep going.
One more.
And
Yeah. Pierce
one
like
more.
through the fog, right?
Yeah.
Like
Anyone
there's
who,
the light on the other side of that like veil.
yeah. Yeah. There is a light at the other side. And I'm not a quitter. And I think that's where my stubbornness serves me. The only way my business fails is if I quit. And I'm not going to quit. So it's not going to fail.
Love it.
It's a law of something. The more you do something, the more potential it has to work out. So if you just keep doing that thing, eventually it's going to work out. That's, I'm definitely butchering and paraphrasing, but that was from the other Hormozy, Alex Hormozy. So it's really hard though to not want to quit. It's a struggle. And that is why Pilates, bringing it back, is so important, because Pilates does make you mentally stronger, not only like working through stress in that moment, but I think that it's a challenge, whether it's the equipment is something new to you and you're learning something new and mastering it, or maybe it's a move that you're working on and working towards mastering. It's really a mental game, which is what I love
For
about
sure.
it.
Without like one more rep with the bungee.
Yes.
Get it a little bit higher.
Oh man, those bungees.
Well, what are some of the things that you're excited about for 2024?
I think I'm most excited about just getting into a good groove, because leading up to 2024 has been it's felt like so many challenges, challenge after challenge. And there will always be challenges as a business owner and just as a human being. But I feel like I have my studios, and I'm ready to just really get systems and processes in place and do more community events. Like, that is one of the reasons I wanted to have these places, would be for people to come gather, whether that's for a class or something outside of that. So I'm excited to just do more fun stuff. I think just the overall theme is more fun in 2024.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, like one of the things I'm manifesting is like all these female dentists come here. We're going to take a class, we'll learn about TMJ or airway or whatever. And then we're going to go to the studio and do a class, and then, go do
I would love that
stuff. So that's what I'm manifesting. And I think if you say it out loud, then you like have to make sure it happens. Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important to be it, and then you'll see it. I just heard that yesterday. I was like, I'm going to keep that
out
here.
Good.
So yeah, you got to be it, and then you'll see it. I'm probably paraphrasing that too, but it is true. I think you do also kind of have to be careful who you do say things in front of, though, because
they'll hold you to it.
Yeah, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah,
I think it's a good thing.
Accountability is definitely a good thing, but you want to be surrounded by people who want to help you accomplish those things, and not hear you say what you're trying to manifest and tell you all the reasons why it's not going to work. So I think having like some boundaries around your mindset and around, just holding on to what you want to have happen. And why do you want to have that happen? Because community, because you're passionate about education,
leadership.
so just know, yeah, leadership. So I think that's definitely going to happen in 2024. I can't wait. I'll be there. I'll be here. We'll be here.
Perfect. All right. Well, anything else you want to like riff on?
I don't know. I just really appreciate you inviting me to come chat with you, and
I appreciate you, friend.
Wait, are the kids doing it differently, or they do something? I don't know. But I really appreciate you inviting me. I know I'm not the usual guest, but
no, I love it.
Hopefully,
I need to like shake things up for, January 1, 2024. And I think you, like I said, you're the creative mind behind one of the places that really I take the time to come and, absorb and appreciate. And I just, I look to you for inspiration, and also just as a friend. And, I had to, we've talked about this. We had to do it.
We made it happen. Look, we're already manifesting stuff. We talked about it. We made it happen. We're doing it.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Thank you again. And Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year to you.
To my whole Jaw Talk podcast community. Thanks for listening.
As we wrap up today's episode, stay tuned. We have some big, exciting announcements coming up here soon at TMD Collective. So keep watching our social media, keep watching our podcasts. Stay tuned for more information that's going to be coming. And let's just keep reaching for our dreams. And thank you, Lindsay, for being such an inspiration to me, as for your friendship and your innovation. What you create is pure magic. And so I want to continue to showcase all of the wonderful things that I love about where I live and some of the wonderful people that I have in my network. And so I hope you'll continue to stay humble, stay curious, and stay tuned. Keep manifesting your dreams into reality. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Lamberton, and thanks for joining us on Jaw Talk.